Today's guest, we got RDR. Tell me a little bit about him.
Today we have Reinier de Ridder on, and he is our one championship middleweight and light heavyweight champion. And after his
two belts?
Two belts. After his last fight with Bigdash, when he was done, he's looking at the organization, looking at Chachi, basically saying, "Come on, give me the heavyweights." So we have two heavyweights right now, Arjun Buller and Anatoly Malyukin, who are going to end up, I guess, unifying the belt. There's Arjun had a long layoff, and Malyukin was the interim champ. So they're going to figure out who the undisputed heavyweight champ is. But RDR was like, I'll take on either one of them. I'll make. He said it on his Instagram. He said, I make good people look average or whatever. So
he just has that mentality, like, put them in front of me.
Absolutely. So he's pretty cool too. Like, and learning about this guy and chatting with him a little bit. Like, he's got a background in physiotherapy, and his whole philosophy is like, in the gym, I break people down, but in my other business, I repair them and build them back up. So he's an educated man, and he's very confident. So should be a fun conversation.
Quite frankly, it's kind of unusual.
It's quite Franklin.
Got it. Quite Franklin.
Did you just finish training?
Yeah, I trained in the morning, and it's awesome weather here in Holland. It's like 30 degrees and sun is shining, so good times.
I think you're my first shirtless guest.
Yeah, so you get boom.
You've actually motivated me. Maybe I should start doing my podcast topless.
Easy does it. Come on now.
Yeah. So let me go back to the Malyukin Buller. So you had some stuff to say after your Bigdash fight about that, and we'll revisit the Bigdash fight too. But thoughts on each of those opponents. I'll ask you the question this way, because I thought about how I wanted to ask you this question. Between the two of them, who do you think is your path of least resistance to winning? Because I know you believe you can beat both of them. Or where do you like to match up better? Which one's easier for you?
Yeah, pretty much I like them both. They're pretty similar in that they can both wrestle. Bular's wrestling is better, and Malyukin's striking is better. It's hard to say right now because we haven't seen Bular in a while, of course. Malyukin, we haven't seen a lot either. We've just seen him striking. We haven't seen a lot of his wrestling. I think the easier one by a little bit might be Bular.
And do you think it'd be easier to take Bular down?
I think it'd be easier to dominate him. It'd be easier to grab him, put him against the cage, maybe not take him down, but he doesn't really have something to be very worried about. Like Malyukin, you can't make a mistake because if he hits you, you might be in trouble. And Bular, you can take a few of his shots.
Yeah, but one of the things that impresses me about Arjun is the fact that his volume, like he's able to keep going. For a heavyweight, he fights like a middleweight or a welterweight.
But I fight middleweights all the time. So.
Well said. Okay, let's go back because those are the comments you made about after the Bigdash fight. So talk to me about that fight. Were you surprised that he dropped down in that guillotine to the guard?
Yeah, I was very, very surprised. I didn't expect it at all. Yeah. So I saw the takedown, got the entry, and I was still thinking I don't want to put him against the cage because it's going to be harder to take him down. So I didn't want to push forward too much. So I was thinking I want to make an angle here. Am I going to go left? Am I going to go right? And then he jumped already. So I was a bit surprised. But then I was never really in trouble, to be honest. My arm was in. You couldn't really see from the camera angle, but my right arm was in. And I was able to scoot my hips up almost right away. So there was not a lot of pressure on my left side with the choke. So I was safe, but a lot of people have been telling me, I was afraid that something was wrong there.
When I was watching, I didn't think that at all, like that you were in any bit of trouble. But I was shocked when he dropped down to guard. I just thought of all the places that you want to be with this guy is not there, against the fence, trapped underneath him. I just thought it was a terrible idea all the way around.
Yeah, exactly. And then when I was in there, I knew I wasn't in real trouble. I wasn't in real danger. So in my head, I was just thinking, I'll write this out. I'll take my time, fight the grips. And the longer he has to be squeezing, the worse it's going to get for him after. And then when I popped out, I was certain that I was going to get it done.
So you hit him with that reverse triangle. Was obviously something that you do in practice all the time. You talked about that. But was that something that you were drilling specifically for Bigdash, or did that just happen to present itself?
No, because I never really expect to end up on bottom at all. So it wasn't something I've been drilling especially. But the last few weeks before the fight, it was a thing that popped up. It was a thing that popped up in my mind that this might happen. I might get him in a triangle of sorts because all of them, not only this triangle, but all of the triangles have been working very well in sparring lately. And I'm very happy that I got him this way. I'm happy that I put him to sleep, which happened very quickly, to be honest, because it was tight right away. And I think those punches he threw, he might have been out already because those really weren't punches. It was more like a shock thing.
Yeah, the body convulsing or something.
Yeah, I got this from Braulio, of course, Braulio Stima, this choke. And this was like 2008 or 2009 was the first time he did it in a competition against Andre Galvao in the ADCC. And that's about the time I started training jiu-jitsu and MMA. So it's very cool that I got the chance to show it myself this time.
So was that one of the original, like, first triangle chokes that you learned then back in, or?
No, not really.
Okay.
But it's one that I've been doing for years already, and I always get people with this in training, especially the first few times. If I visit the new gym or I visit with new people, if I train with new people who come to our gym, I always get them with this choke because they don't see it coming, and then when they train with me a little longer, it gets harder and harder and harder to get it because they know what's coming. But it's definitely one that I really love. I really like this choke.
Training with people a long time like that, it forces you to refine your technique to a level, because, like, you know, if you and I are training together every day and you catch me with some stuff initially, I'm going to get keen to your game, which means that you have to either get new tricks or you have to refine the old tricks such that you can continue catching me with them, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Do you roll a lot still, Richard?
I did jiu-jitsu yesterday, actually. I'll typically go in maybe twice a week and get my roll in. So my weeks now are, I'll do my 3 strength and conditioning sessions, maybe 1 bag work day or pad work day, typically drill and grapple a little bit twice. And then maybe like kind of 1 auxiliary cardio workout, some jogging or something like that. And that's about a week for me, maybe 7 to 8 hours tops now. That's obviously way down from, like, how many hours do you put in a week with your training when you're in camp?
In camp, I'd say like a bit over 22, because you got to keep it got to keep it worthwhile as well. You can't really put too many hours in because of the intensity has to be very high as well.
What is your ratio between how much you do as far as drilling and what would be, I would say, mentally taxing versus the workouts that are physically taxing? It's
almost, I do a lot of sparring, a lot of rolling, a lot of wrestling, a lot of kickboxing. I do not do a lot of drilling, like technique drilling, dry.
So do you do situational drilling or semi-live drills, or because how do you refine?
It's all 100% live what I do, or almost 100% live what I do. And I train a lot with people who are just a little bit less than I am, who I can dominate, who I can control. And I use that to drill some of my moves. So I go into a lot of sessions thinking I want to make this move better, and I'll try to pass a guy 5 times with the same drill, or I'll try to hit a guy in 1 round 15 times with the same punch.
Oh wow!
And this way I get their full effort in trying to stop me.
Yeah, that's actually pretty smart. Then, but as the fight approaches, then do you actually begin surrounding yourself with more people that will push you and dominate you in certain ways?
This is my philosophy for training. I think you should train like between 70 and 80% with people who are lower than your level, and then between 20 and 30 with people of your level or above. I do this year round like this.
That's actually eye-opening to me, because when I was preparing for matches, what we would do is you depend on having good training partners. So, for example, if you and I were equal on the mat, then we would do a controlled spar where, I don't know, maybe you're doing a guard pass or a certain submission or something, and I would just vary my resistance from anywhere from 50 to 100%, just to make it as difficult as on you as possible so that you can refine that technique. But you're dependent on training partners that know you and able to turn it up and turn it down in order to give you that resistance at the right time. So that's how we did that when I was training.
I can't find a better English word, but it's going to be fake. It's going to be hard for the partner to give you the right amount of resistance. And the guys I pick, I know exactly how much they can give me. I know exactly what they bring to the table. And then if I need to, if a fight gets closer and I need more of a cardio aspect in this type of training, I just put 2 or 3 people against me, and I do this a few times a week. So I let them rotate in and still work on my technique the same way, and then see if I can get the same technique when I'm totally trained.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. What kind of bank of training partners do you have to choose from when you're actually prepping for a match?
So here in Holland, it's very easy to get high-level strikers, of course. So I can almost endlessly get great kickboxers. And then I have Gegard Mousasi and his team in Leiden. I go there twice a week and I train with him. There's another guy called Costello van Steenis. He fights in Bellator's middleweight division.
Yeah.
I think he's one of the top middleweights in the world as well. And he's just coming back from ACL injury. But I think in the next few years, you'll hear a lot about him as well. His technical and his physical ability is very high. And there's a lot of heavyweights there as well. Another Bellator guy called Gökhan Sarıçam. He's a Turkish-Belgium fighter, and he's a great guy to spar with as well. He's a little shorter than me, but a lot of power. He has like 20 to 25 kilos on me. So it's amazing to train with him. And then back home in my own gym, I have a lot of guys who are at a high level, but not my level yet.
So do you sit down prior to camp with these 3 different academies that you go to and select which guys from each academy will make good training partners for that particular camp?
Yeah, we try to. There's just a set amount of people that I always have as training partners, and then we try to get some in that mimic the style of my opponents.
I'm assuming that when you're fighting middleweight, light heavyweight, you obviously choose partners that are appropriate weight, or does it not matter to you because the way you're drilling?
I get a lot of heavier guys always. I like to work with heavier guys always.
Yeah, I was the same way. What's your walking weight, RDR?
Like 96, 97 kilos. So that's I think I'm around 210, 215.
Yeah, because
I just tie it down pretty easy to 205.
Yeah, I'm pretty much like right at 100 kilos myself. So I walk around about 220. Okay, so you talk about pursuing the heavyweight title. Has there been anyone from the competition team that's actually talked to you about the reality of this possibly happening in the future? Like, are they open to it?
Yeah, we always talk about it every time I'm there. I keep stalking them with it, and they're open to it, but it's not like they're jumping at the bit right now to give me that shot. And I understand, because one guy carrying 3 belts in the division in the company might not be the best look, but it's at the other side. It's a historic thing, so I would really enjoy it, and I think it would be good for one as well.
Has anybody ever carried 3 belts in like any, like besides like boxing? But I mean, I know that you have like 4 or 5 major boxing associations. So has anybody actually carried numerous weight classes, all the belts?
Not in MMA. See, the difference between boxing and MMA is that the difference between your weight classes are much smaller.
Yeah, right.
So, traditionally speaking, from the Western mindset sense, like a lightweight is 155.
Yeah.
The welterweight is 170. So it's a 15-pound jump, and it's a big jump. So for you to jump from that to 185 to the next weight class to 205, these are huge jumps.
Yeah.
So when does the talk of RDR being the GOAT begin then? Or do you put yourself in that category?
Yeah, I'll let that be up to to you guys, to other people in the media.
Oh, come on, man. I was looking for some juicy trash talk here. Come on. That's weak.
I've this has been in my mind since the beginning, since the first couple of fights. I know I'm the best in the world. I just want to show it and then let people talk about it.
Is there any point in time where you say, I'm not going to submit somebody, I'm going to just knock them out from my feet so that people can see my striking skills as well? Or are you going to keep going to the well?
No, I want to represent jiu-jitsu in every fight. Maybe if there's someone who can stop my takedown, but I've been saying, give me a Muay Thai fight and I'll show it off. So I've been calling out Engelani. Let's go. Why not?
Nice. So you would fight Galani in straight Muay Thai?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Have you actually thought of doing any switching over to Muay Thai or kickboxing at one championship and pursuing a belt there?
I've talked to them about it. I actually, after the fight, I talked to Chatri about it. If there's no MMA fight for me in around October, then that would be a great option.
Okay, so typically speaking, at least in my day, you had to defend your belt within a 1 year period. Otherwise, you vacated it. So if you have 3 belts, it doesn't matter if it's 3 weight classes of MMA or one of them is in Muay Thai. How do you defend all these belts on an annual basis?
Well, in Muay Thai, just give me a one-off. I'm not looking for a belt in Muay Thai. But I can fight 3 times a year in 3 different weight classes. Why not? And I'd be more active than Bular and Malakin. These guys, they hardly ever fight.
So you just rotate belts. You just middleweight, light heavyweight, then back to middleweight.
Keep it scheduled to summer, so in the summer I can look good on the beach, so I can fight heavyweight.
So when you come into a middleweight fight, then what are you walking at the beginning of fight week? Like, are you already down and on weight?
No, I'm a few kilos over usually. So I'm like 95 kilos usually when I fly out, maybe 96. So that's 6 pounds, 7 pounds over, which would be 211, something like that. Normally when I step on the plane.
And you have to weigh what?
205.
205. All right.
Yeah.
So I got a question. So are you familiar with the Jake Paul fight?
Yeah, it's not happening, right?
Right. Because the guy couldn't cut weight. He was fighting, I think he walks around like 215, 216. And the commission wanted him to take 6 weeks to drop 15 pounds to fight 200.
Okay.
But then after 3 weeks, they did a weigh-in and he only lost a pound. So they were like, okay, you can't do this. And so Jake Paul's camp was like, hey, all right, we'll fight 205. And then the current boxer, and I forget his name, but he's like, I won't cut the 10 pounds. We can fight 215 or not at all. So how hard is it to cut that amount of weight?
It's not hard at all. I think Rich can say the same thing. You can do that in, that's 5 kilos. You can do that in a week.
Okay, so first of all, that's completely different than what we do at one championship because you can't cut weight. But when I was competing, I could do 5 kilos overnight.
It's still very amateuristic sometimes. The way they set it up, the promotion is sometimes very amateuristic as well.
Yeah, and boxers have always squabbled over quarter pounds, and that's what makes the difference. Ounces and gloves, and in MMA, like you'll never hear an MMA match. Like look at RDR here. He's like, I'll fight in this weight class. I'll fight in this other weight class that's 20 pounds heavier in essence, and no big deal. And gloves, there's never a discussion about glove sizes, none of those kinds of things. You just don't hear about it in MMA because it doesn't happen.
Which I love your attitude, by the way. I get tired of all the excuses and I don't want to fight this person, that person. It just gets really old.
And it's not the right way to prepare yourself mentally for a fight. If you're thinking of all that noise, all the details, you're not going to step into the cage or the ring in this instance on top in 100%.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What got you into training?
I was a judoka as a kid, so I did a lot of judo as a kid, and I moved to this city, my city, Breda, to study here. And then I went to do some rugby. Somebody invited me for rugby, but this was shit.
You don't strike me as a rugby player.
No, man, it's like 14 people on a field. There's one ball. So you're just running up and down all day. It's the most boring thing I've ever done.
I don't know. Try playing American baseball.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, I guess. It takes so long and nothing happens. Then somebody told me, you should check out jiu-jitsu because it's pretty similar to judo. And there wasn't really a lot of good judo gyms here in Breda at the time. So I went to a jiu-jitsu gym for the first time, and I pretty much ran through everybody with my judo knowledge. And the teacher didn't want to train with me. All the other guys were all not that good. So I was like, this BJJ is bullshit. I'm never doing this again. So I left there and I went on with my life, just lifting some weights and whatever. A couple months later, I was in an internship, and a guy there was a purple belt, and he trained at a different gym. So I was telling him about this experience, this jiu-jitsu stuff you do, it's bullshit, doesn't work. And he said, you should come to my gym once, come and train with us. And I went there the first time, and I'm a bigger dude, I'm pretty strong. I was pretty confident at the time in my abilities. So I went there, and all the tiny 70, 60 kilo dudes just choked me out. And I was like, what the fuck is this shit? I need to learn this right now. So that's, I started with that. Jiu-jitsu, and that pretty much turned into MMA as well within a couple of months. I did a lot of jiu-jitsu competitions in the beginning. I won the Abu Dhabi World Pro in Abu Dhabi, and then I got the second place 3 times in the European Championships, and I was very frustrated. I said, fuck this stuff. It's never the best guy that wins, but it's the guy who plays the rules the best way. It was always a Brazilian dude in the finals who ran away for 8 minutes, and then they won for some stupid reason. Then I focused fully on MMA after that.
What year did you start doing judo? How old were you? Because you have a black belt in judo, right?
Yep, they're 5 years old. I started at 5 and then trained till 15, 16, and then other things got more interesting, like partying and girls and stuff. So it took a little bit of a break for a couple of years, only lifting weights. And then when I was 18, 19, I moved here to Breda and I got into jiu-jitsu and MMA.
I'll say that kind of explains it to me, because I didn't know until I started reading about you that you had a black belt in judo. And so when I watch you compete, your takedowns are sometimes unorthodox. They're not that traditional wrestling style. But they're super effective. And I watched, I was scratching my head, and then I started reading. I'm like, oh, now it makes sense because the judo background that you have. So
I like the hip tosses and inside trips, outside trips, reaps. It's all, I think sometimes it's even more effective for MMA than the traditional American wrestling you guys do.
No, I think you're right, because so my wrestling, I didn't grow up wrestling, and the wrestling that I learned, I had to modify strictly for MMA. So if I was to wrestle, just like freestyle wrestle with somebody, with a good wrestler, I'm going to get mopped up. But the moment that I can start throwing a jab in there as a setup, that is the great equalizer for me. But when I saw you hitting like inside trips, I always just kind of took you for, I was like, oh, well, that's a wrestling move. I know it's a judo move as well, but I mistook it for that. And I was like, but your shots don't look like those clean NCAA All-American shots. I was like, so what's going on here with the takedowns? I'm scratching my head, but I'm like, they're so effective every time I watch you compete. And so that made complete sense. I was like, but I agree with you, because for my takedown game, I do a lot of approaching. I fight southpaw, so I use my lead hand coming to the outside. I'm typically matched up against a conventional guy. I'll work that outside lead, the footwork, and then it typically always leads into a head inside single for me. You know, and I don't drop down to my knees, and then I use that for grips that an arm in suplex or something, or lift or anything like that, where I'm elevating the hips, and that's kind of my low risk takedown game. Put somebody against the fence, grind, mash, and so I agree with you.
It works for me, kind of same thing. That's my go-to thing as well, inside single. But I never lift, and this is a conscious decision as well, because a lot of times when you lift guys high up in the air, it requires a lot of energy. It isn't always rewarded. So you pick them up all the way, you slam them down, and you're still in the same position because they step up and you're still on their back. So I always like to do low amplitude stuff, because then it doesn't take me a lot of energy and I can get on top easily.
When I say lift, I'm just talking about elevating the hips enough to get, in order to get underneath, to get the dump.
So when I get the body lock or whatever, I prefer to trip the legs, because it's a very low energy, and then I get on top very easily.
Yeah, I'm with you. I remember because I came through when I was competing. Matt Hughes was big as well, and he was known for picking guys up and carrying them all the way across the ring, which was awesome to watch. It was very entertaining. But I don't wrestle at that level, and something like that would be very taxing for me in order to pull off. So yeah, I'm all about low energy stuff, particularly in one championship, because we have little nuances on suplexes. If you pick somebody up and they land on their head or neck, then you could be penalized or DQ'd for that. So you can't even get the big payoff for a slam like that anyway. It's complete waste of energy. Looks great sometimes.
They always say this in the rules meeting. They say, when you pick them up, you're responsible for how they land. And I always think, fuck that shit, man. Come on. If I pick a guy up, I'm going to put him down the way I want to. I don't care. Come on.
Trust me, I've delivered that line a few times. So when you see somebody from an organizational standpoint land weird on their neck and you're like, oh, yeah. But the pure competitor in me is with you on that completely.
When we're talking about technique, I wanted to tell you, because I didn't get to it when we're talking about the inverted triangle, but that's why I ask you if you still roll a lot. It's very nice to use to get up as well. So when they know how to defend, because the way to defend when you're setting it up is to back off, right? If you make a distance, it's very hard to get the legs wrapped around their neck and their arm.
Yeah.
But if you then use your top leg on their chest, you can kick them away very easily.
Yeah.
It's something you should try, because if you set it up, they want to defend the inverted triangle. You get your top leg on their chest, kick them away, you get up very easily.
Yeah, I'll typically do that even if I'm setting up a standard triangle. If you posture real hard, then I'm using that as a means for a reversal or something. Anyway, like pushing the chest away, because my whole game, like I don't play a lot of bottom game when I'm fighting in MMA, and I see a lot of inverted guard now, and these guys like this new game of. Are you real keen on leg locking?
I am, because I have a lot of those guys in the gym, because a lot of guys like that stuff. Huh? If they see it, they want to try it. And I've been training at Gordon's and Dana's gym a while back, so I've seen a lot of it. I know what they do, but I can't really put too much time into it myself because it's not that useful in MMA.
You saw Gary Tonon's last match, right?
Yes, of course, yeah.
And so he just got like tunnel vision on that submission, and he was in that inverted guard and got lit up from it. And that's why, my whole jiu-jitsu game as it applies to MMA, and this is why you'll really never see me ever roll in competition jiu-jitsu either, is because my jiu-jitsu is all MMA based basically. And if I'm on my back, my whole game is elevators, reversals, sweeps, whatever, something to get back on top. Because particularly for me, I came from an era of MMA where if you were on the ground, even though it was a neutral position, the judges saw you as losing. So I'm like, you can't ride on your back very long. So even most of my submissions, like I catch you sleeping, like you caught Bigdash sleeping on that, like he had no clue it was coming. I'm gonna land a triangle or something, but most of the time, if I'm grappling good guys, like I'm using those things for transitions to a scramble back to my feet or a reversal for topside control. Anyway,
definitely, I try to tell this to the young guys in the gym as well coming up. You got to pick the things in every sport that's useful to you, that's going to help you. And it looks nice, the Imanari rolls and the inverted stuff, and they get drawn into it very easily. But be cautious, because it's not smart to have that thing in the first instance in your mind. So if you see it, you don't want to go Imanari roll every time you see his leg stepping forward. There's a lot of different options, which might be a lot safer and a lot better.
I don't know if you guys have a saying like this in Dutch, but we say position over submission.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we do.
Yeah. Something I learned about you. You have a degree in physiotherapy.
Yeah, man. Like 2 months ago now, I almost fully quit seeing patients. I still see a few every now and again. But I have two practices here in Breda, and one is connected to the gym and another one is focused on ultrasound stuff. I really like it. I really like to work as a physio as well. But nowadays it's pretty busy. The gym is getting very big. Training is of course the most important thing. I have 2 kids, a beautiful wife who's cooking right now here. Oh, nice. So I'm pretty busy with a lot of stuff.
So I got a question. I want to dial it back for 1 second. What is physiotherapy?
A physical therapist.
Oh, physical therapy. Oh, okay.
We don't use the phrase physiotherapy. They're that word over here in the States. So I didn't even know what physiotherapy was until I was living in Singapore. But
Okay.
But there's some physiotherapies that can do anything from acupuncture, dry needling, adjustments like a chiropractor. It just depends on what your specialties are in. Massage therapy.
So he helps people missing a fibula in their leg trying to walk across America?
He would do that. So Cody, my producer and co-host here, he is a cancer survivor. From at the age of 14, he was diagnosed with Ewing sarcoma cancer. They end up taking the fibula out of his right leg, and he was told he would never be able to walk again. And so I actually met him. He came to me asking me to help train him to get ready for this walk. He walked across the entire United States last year. So from Times Square to Santa Monica Pier. And because he was like, well, the doctors told me I never walk again. So I'm going to prove him wrong. So having somebody like you on the walk with him would have been quite helpful, because by the time he was done, his body was pretty wrecked after almost 3,000 miles or whatever.
But how's your stability on that leg then, Cody?
Not very good.
No, exactly. Yeah.
So, okay, let me ask you then, when you're training, what are some of your favorite methods? I'm asking you this for personal reasons. Favorite methods of recovery? You mentioned ultrasound, you acupuncture guy, massage therapy guy, ice bath. I saw you do some Wim Hof stuff. I interviewed him as well.
Yeah. Oh, did you? That's right.
Yeah.
I do a lot of the Wim Hof breathing, ice baths. I like those very much. And as a physio, I do dry needling as well, as you said. I do the adjustments. And we do a lot of rehab stuff with people. So we train a lot with people, getting them into better postures and that sort of stuff. I do a lot of ultrasound diagnosing. So people come in with the tears or whatever, and I check with the ultrasound what's up. And if I have something that's tight or whatever, my wife is a physio as well.
Oh, how convenient is that?
Yeah, so we got a great setup. She does dry needling on me and stuff like that. So that's very easy, very helpful. And for recovery, I think I always focus on healthy food year round. I always watch my diet very well. I never get out of shape. I think this is a big thing as well. A lot of people then, once they've had their fight, they don't train for months and they get fat, and then they want to get back into shape, and then they get hurt. I've never let it come that far. And I really enjoy the ice baths. I would like to have a sauna, but I can't really find a good place to make one, because we don't really have a great spot in the gym. And I think if I put one here in my garden, I wouldn't really use it as much. It would be cool to get it in the gym, but we're still looking at how to get that done.
You talking about infrared sauna or heat sauna?
No, like a real one.
Oh,
I really like that.
You like the sweating of the toxins out, and
yeah, and there's some there's even like some studies saying that if you don't train at all and you do these sessions like 3 or 4 times a week, it's almost as beneficial as training itself. So it can really help with your cardio and all-cause mortality. And
have you ever used hyperbaric chamber?
No, I've not. It's not really popular in Holland yet.
When I was competing, I used to sleep in an altitude tent for conditioning purposes, which I have a different opinion of at this point in time as far as that's concerned. But I've used a hyperbaric chamber for recovery for a couple different things. I don't have access to one on a daily basis, but for example, when I climbed Fuji in Japan, by the time I was done with that climb, I was pretty trashed. And I came back to the hotel where we were staying, and they had a hyperbaric chamber there. And I took a nap in the hyperbaric chamber for an hour and 20 minutes, I think was the session. And then I did 3 hot cold plunges in the onsen in the wet room. And I woke up the next morning and felt like I could have climbed that mountain again. Like, you know, any pains that I had, like knees and all that kind of stuff, was just completely gone. So I'm a big fan of hyperbaric chambers. I love the ice. I used to use ice baths 3 times a week after my hardest sessions when I was in competition. So if I had like really hard sparring days or whatever, we would hit those ice baths. And my wrestling coach used to make me sit in those baths for 15 minutes, which is not necessary. But I think he used it as a drill for mental toughness as well, you know? And
you got to explain the hyperbaric chamber to me, because I haven't read a lot about it, because they're not here yet. There's no places to go. But it does added pressure, right?
Yeah. So a lot of people will use the term hyperbaric chamber to inappropriately for an altitude tent. So they think like, oh, if I'm sleeping at altitude, I'm sleeping in a hyperbaric chamber. And the science behind these two things are completely different. So if you're sleeping in an altitude tent, you're sleeping in reduced oxygen. So what your body ends up doing is producing more red blood cells so that it can carry the oxygen. And the idea is when you come down from altitude, then you have excess red blood cells so that you're super oxygenated, so to speak. But when you're in a hyperbaric chamber, you're mimicking sea depth. So it's forcing oxygen into your system. So obviously, you know that you need things like oxygen for recovery, anywhere from, muscle fatigue to injury or whatever. That's essentially what the body does when it puts blood in. So you're forcing oxygen into areas that are damaged that need recovery. So I'm a big fan. Like would definitely, if I had a hyperbaric chamber, I would probably nap in that every day for like an hour or something between sessions if I had one.
If I get close to one, I'll try it.
Yeah,
I've done a lot of diving as well, and so it mimics like being under the sea, right?
Exactly, and that's what they'll do. Like they'll set it to a certain atmospheric pressure, and obviously, the more comfortable you are in that, the deeper you can go.
They've even used them for like severe radiation burns, as well as like wound care therapy and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's true. I've heard that as well. I think maybe it's akin to the Wim Hof breathing as well.
How often do you do his breathing techniques?
Yeah, I do it a couple times a week at least. And then when I prepare for a fight, a lot more often. Sometimes I can go like 4 minutes or even longer.
Really? You can hold your breath for 4 minutes?
Yeah. And I've been getting into, have you heard about this? The Oxygen Advantage?
Mm.
It's a book by an Irish guy, Patrick McEwen. And it focuses on breathing less. And lowering your it's hard for me also to do this stuff in English, to talk about this in English, but
well, your English is way better than my Dutch.
Thank you.
I'm writing this book down.
Let me see how I can say it. So the sense you get that you need to breathe is dependent on the amount of carbon dioxide in your blood, right?
Yeah.
So it's not about that you have too little oxygen that makes you breathe again, but it's about the amount of carbon dioxide in your blood. And you can lower, or you can, if you train this, then that moment you need to start breathing again, you can postpone.
Yeah.
And this makes you breathe more functionally when you have more stress. So nowadays, usually when I roll and mostly when I spar as well, I only breathe through my nose. So I don't need as much oxygen, not as much oxygen and other gas. So I don't need as much air when I train.
But doesn't this kind of tie back into Wim Hof's method? Because when he's training people, for example, like he's trained people to climb Kilimanjaro, the whole purpose is not oxygenating the body as much as it is that your body, especially when the blood is in an alkaline level or whatever, that you can dispel the carbon dioxide more efficiently. And that kind of the science behind it.
Ties a lot into it. And the part in the breathing exercise, when you hold your breath, I think that's very similar to it as well, because you're going as long as you can without breathing as well.
Yeah. Wim actually, when I did my interview with him, by the way, he just like yelled at me the whole time. It was awesome. Like he was super jacked up. And by the time I was done with that interview, I was so tired. I was like, oh my God, I felt like I'd just been reprimanded by my dad for the last half hour. But, he talked about that when you're holding your breath and your body will feel like it wants to breathe. And he's like, that's just your brain telling you that you need to, like that, your primitive brain saying, breathe, breathe, breathe. He's like, but you can just hang out there for some time. Just don't panic and you'll be fine. And so there is that aspect of working past that, because knowing that your body is properly dealing with the carbon dioxide in it, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And just postponing that moment that you're, so letting your body know you can go longer with more carbon dioxide in your body, that makes it easier while training as well. It's a very interesting book. And he was like asthma patient as a kid. And this way of breathing helped him with that as well. It's very interesting to read, The Oxygen Advantage. There's a lot of good stuff in there.
Yeah, I have it written down. I'll definitely look this book up. Who knows? Maybe he'll be one of my future podcast guests. So
yeah,
appreciate the suggestion.
And Wim is even better in Dutch, man. He's funny in English, but in Dutch he's even more hyped up.
He's hilarious. Like he yelled at me the entire podcast. I was like, bro, just relax. Yeah. Okay, then let me take this a whole different direction. Speaking of oxygen, lack of oxygen, you predicted before the Galval match that you were going to choke him out.
Didn't happen.
That's it. That's all you got for me.
Yeah, I'm okay with the way it went right now. I was very bummed out after the match, but I'm not a grappler anymore. I'm focused on MMA, and I'm pretty proud that I can hang with a guy like that for 12 minutes.
Yeah, I grapple with Galval, and when I did, I had no clue who he was. And oh really? My God, no, this was years ago, and man, like it took me, like he made me look stupid for a few rounds, and then after a few days, like I was able to adjust to his game, but never was I on the offensive at all. I was just like able to survive and thinking, well, at least I can get back to my feet here. So, yeah, he's insane on the ground. Well, let me ask you this then: what do you think? How do you think you'd match up with him in an MMA match, because he does MMA as well?
Yeah, that would be awesome. That would be very cool if we can get to fight for real someday. And that's exactly the thing that frustrated me during the match. You can't really force anything when it's grappling. It's just so different. If I can hit you with a couple of knees, hit you with a couple of elbows, I can pass your guard. But if it's just grappling, it's a lot harder to get past his guard.
So if you were to fight him in MMA, then would you go the route of grappling?
Yeah, definitely. I'll pressure him. I'll put him against the fence, and I think if I can just get a couple of knees in, get a couple of elbows in, I would do a lot different on the floor.
Yeah, I would assume, at least me, I would take the path of least resistance and say, I'm going to keep this standing. That's where you're 6'4", man. Like,
yeah, maybe hit him with a couple of jabs first, but it's always jiu-jitsu.
Always to slow him down. What are you having for dinner tonight, by the way? You said your wife is cooking. What's for dinner?
She's shrimps and noodles.
Talk to me about your nutrition. What does your nutrition look like? Because you said it doesn't really change in season, out season. Neither did mine. Like, back to the comment you made about that, I'm 100% believer in staying in shape year round. Like, your job as an athlete, there is no real off season. You can peak and valley, obviously, but there's some sort of baseline where I never let myself fall out of shape.
This goes for me as well. When I eat pasta or bread, it's nice for like 2 minutes, but then I feel like shit. So it's pretty easy to stay off it. I feel like shit for hours if I eat like a lot of sandwiches or pasta. So it's easy for me to skip. And mostly I focus on a lot of protein, good fats, and then I add in like a simple, more complex carbohydrates. So I eat a lot of eggs, I eat a lot of fish and meat, and I add in veggies and some like complex carbs like yams or rice.
Yeah, yams are my primary source of carbohydrate in a given day. Yams, or I do a lot of oatmeal, because when I'm doing protein shakes, like I'll throw oats in my shakes as well. So
nowadays I don't really anymore. I used to as well, and I eat a lot of fruit.
Yeah, I do too. Okay. Do you weigh measure anything out? Is there like you keep percentages or anything, or you just eat until you're full?
No, I just eat. Usually I can eat as much as I want as long as I eat the right stuff. And this is a trend in MMA, which I'm very much against. Some people think it's a CrossFit competition, man. Like TJ Dillashaw is a great example of that. They focus fully on, they weigh every ounce they eat. They focus fully on the strength and conditioning side, and they put the martial arts stuff on the weigh side. Mm-hmm. I think martial arts should always come first. It should always be sports specific, and everything else is secondary.
I agree with that, but I will say that I am or was guilty of being the guy who measured everything out at times. But because I cut weight, and I cut so much weight when I was competing, so I would drop from Well, in pounds, I would drop from 208 down to 185. So I had to keep strict tabs on everything that I ate, and I bounced between 185 and 205 in my career as well. But I was never a true 205er. Like I was a small guy in that weight class, so I never had to worry about making weight, so to speak. But yeah, when I was at 185, like I had to keep strict tabs on what kind of supplements I was taking, like how much creatine I took, how much water it would make me retain. I tracked like how much weight I dropped at the end, how much I floated overnight. Because if I didn't, I would have never made weight, because I was like getting down to that last gram of weight cut type of thing.
Yeah, the same thing would go for me if I would have to fight at 185 again. Then I have to be a lot more strict. But you're more muscle bound than I am. I'm taller and lankier, and I think you would easily hold a lot more water when you eat like just a little bit of carbs.
I can tell. I used to do these epic cheat meals on a Saturday night. So I would come in, I would train on my Saturday, and I only had one session on those days. And then when I started eating lunch, like from lunchtime on, the rest of the day was just junk food. And it was bad junk food. But as I got older, it would just be, instead of a cheat meal, it would be more of like a refeed. Like I would just give myself a caloric excess, but it was cleaner food. Some of it might be junky, but there's a big difference between eating like really crap desserts or having, I don't know, extra serving of fruit or some good, like high quality dark chocolate or something that actually has a little bit of sugar in it, rather than just stuffing yourself.
I used to do it like that as well when I was like just starting off the first couple of fights. I didn't really watch my nutrition that well either. I would make weight on Friday, 84 kilos, so that's 185, and then fight on Saturday. And then Sunday night, I would be like up to 100 kilos again, 220, eat everything after the fight and feel like shit for days. But nowadays, it doesn't really seem worth it anymore. It doesn't really seem worth it to eat like sushi endlessly or...
Well, hold on.
So y'all don't like The Rock?
No, sushi endlessly. I'm going to have to disagree with you on that aspect of it. Like I was good until you said sushi.
Some good sushi is nice, but I don't like to stuff myself too crazy anymore. I had days like I woke up on Mondays, I couldn't even open my eyes. My face was so fat with water. So
yeah, we call that a food coma.
Yeah, exactly. You feel like shit, man. It's not nice.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, I got another one. How do you think you stack against Adesanya or Jiri?
Prohaska, Jiri.
Sorry.
Yeah. I think both of them are great matchups. Adesanya does very well with his takedown defense against the cage, but in the open space, he's pretty easy to take down. He has some things he does in his striking that are just so easy to take advantage of. He leans back a lot. He shows his hips a lot, shows his hips forward. It's very easy to shoot on that. It's very easy to shoot on him when he throws hooks because his entire base is back. His hips are forward. I think he would be, as Jan showed us, he's pretty easy to take down in the open space. And Jiri, as Glover showed us, his grappling is all right, but I don't need more than 2 minutes with him. And I think once I grab him, it's over. Because on the floor, it's a mess, man.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of grappling and 2 minutes, what kind of adjustments did Angla make between the first match and the second match that allowed him to take that to a decision with you?
Yeah, he did a lot better, man. His grappling was a lot better. He had a guy in his corner named Nate Marquardt. You know him?
Oh, I know Nate. Yeah.
Have you fought him? Maybe he's your weight.
I never fought Nate. He and I were kind of on one of those collision courses that never hit.
Because he was a good fighter as well back in the day. It was very dangerous.
I don't know what ended up happening with his career, but he was rising and then he kind of dropped off, and I don't think he ever really got the respect that he deserved.
It's a shame because I could hear his coaching very well because it was silent in the arena, of course, because there was no crowd. And he nailed everything he said, Ang did, and that was very, very, very helpful for him.
Oh, wow.
And I got some excuses as well, of course, for that fight because it was on 5 days notice, a weight class up. So it was very hard for me to perform the way I usually do.
Yeah.
But Ong did very well. Very.
Yeah, I forgot that you took that on late notice because Bigdash dropped out due to COVID. Is that what that was?
No, I don't know why, but he dropped out.
Yeah, I think he tested positive for COVID or whatever. So I forgot that you took that on 5 days' notice. But that's not an excuse because that goes against what you said about being in shape all the time. And
exactly. So before the fight, I said, "Let's do it. I don't care." But afterwards, I gotta use a bit of an excuse sometimes, right?
Well, you know what? Actually, though, I'll say this: that with Ong Law having Marquardt in his corner and Marquardt being on point with the coaching, the fact that you were not in peak performance shape for a fight because you took it on a late notice and still able to go all 5 rounds is a testament to you truly being in shape. You know, aside from me clowning you on it, but no, that's actually like a huge testament to you because 25 minutes when you're not peaking for that is difficult to do, man. So much respect.
Thank you. And I got him in the side choke in the second round, and I messed up there, and it haunted me for months afterwards. It's really pushed me to work on my side chokes, and they've gotten a lot better afterwards, which is why I wanted to finish. Albasov so badly with the side choke. I wanted to show off that I can now finish people with the side choke again. So I was fully focused on it, maybe a bit too much because I choked him twice with it.
But you didn't talk about that after the Abasov fight, did you? In your post fight?
I don't think so, no.
See, like this is what makes Legends of Men, because I didn't know this. The fact that if you were post fight and said, "Okay, look, here's the deal. I missed this side choke on Ong La, whatever, and so I worked this to prove that this is going to work, and that was the submission that I picked. And you know, I nailed then it's like, oh wow, this man actually picked his submission for this match and won with that.
I did call it before. I did call it beforehand, but I'll give you a call next time for some PR advice.
Okay. Well, I don't know if I'm an expert. I'm not a black belt in PR like you are in jiu-jitsu. I'll put it that way. Did you train with Ong La, or did you bring him in when you were prepping for Bigdash?
Yeah, I did. I did train with him. I went there to Sanford and trained with him. It was very cool. It was very special. Yeah.
How was your experience down there with training and different partners, and going back to your philosophy about choosing partners that are below your level? Talk to me about all that. How was it different? How much time did you spend there?
No, I just spent a week at Sanford's and a week at Gordon and Danaher's place. It was just very cool, very special. At Sanford, they have like 60, 70 pros on the mat every morning and every night. So I don't think something like that exists anywhere else in the world. So it's just very cool to work with all those different body types. And speaking of great American wrestlers, Logan Storley. He just won the welterweight championship in Bellator. And he was a great guy to train with as well for the wrestling and for the takedowns.
Was he at Sanford?
He's at Sanford.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought, yeah.
Who else? I trained a lot with Driekus. Driekus du Plessis is a South African guy. We were supposed to fight years ago because I fought at the South African promotion for one fight as well. He's a middleweight, fights in the UFC right now. It's nice to spend some time with Henry, meet his wife. We had some dinner. So all around the good stuff. Miami was very cool. Florida was very cool. And then for me, the most special thing was to train with John and with Gordon. To get a lot of praise from John was very special.
What does Gordon feel like on the mat?
Crazy, man. Crazy.
On this side of competition now, sometimes when I watch guys like you grapple, I think to myself, like, man, I would like to see what it feels like to have RDR on top of me or to grapple with Gordon, just to see what that feels like. So it's got to be a good experience. I'll put it that way.
So Cody, you're not a martial artist, right? So
I'm not.
No, exactly. So this some words still sound weird to you.
A little bit.
Yeah, out of context, if I say, I wonder what it feels like to have RDR on top of me, it doesn't sound right. But in our world, he knows exactly what I'm talking about. So, well, listen, man, I'll leave you on that note then. You go grab dinner with your wife. One final question. I thought about this. Your name, it's a palindrome.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Is that on purpose or?
It's not really common Dutch name, but it's not on purpose. But if my last name would have been, so my last name is de Ridder, which means the knight.
Yeah.
But if my last name would have been the Savior, de Redder, then it would have been another palindrome.
Yeah. That's a mic drop. We're just going to stop there. Reinier, thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
So nice to meet you.
Yeah. Take care, brother.
Quite Franklin is providing this podcast as a public service, but it is neither a legal interpretation nor legal advice, nor a statement of Quite Franklin policy. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation of that product or entity by Rich Franklin or Quite Franklin. The views expressed by guests on the podcast are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. Views and opinions expressed by Quite Franklin employees or representatives are the views and opinions of the persons expressing them, and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of Quite Franklin or any of its officials or principals. Nothing heard on this podcast at any time is medical advice or is intended as medical advice. The listener must always consult his or her personal physician or other qualified medical professional regarding any questions of a medical nature. If you have any questions about this disclaimer, please contact our general counsel.